So how many installs did you do on average this year? One thing that I want to talk about is revenue. Everybody should have a pretty good idea now of what you're going to do for this year overall. Maybe not, obviously not an exact number. We've still got a couple weeks left, but you have a good idea of what your revenue target, what your revenue will be for this year. And then from that, you can work out what is our target for next year. If we divide that by 12, then that gives us our monthly number. Where do we want to be monthly in order to hit this goal at the end of the year? And it's not a flat number like we want to be at $500,000 by the end of the year. So in order to do that, we need to do 41,000 a month for the next 12 months, right? That doesn't happen, especially if you're at 22,000 right now. But overall, the average is going to be that 41K. So that is the goal. By the end of the year, we need to be generating at least 41K on average. And then we would have a $500,000 company, right? Or $500,000 revenue company. So drill that down to monthly. And then the other thing that you need to figure out is what is the average transaction value in your world right now? Or as a very generic generalization, window treatments on average is around $4,000 per transaction. Awnings is closer to $6,500, $7,000 average transaction value. Now that depends widely on where you're at, how much population there is, how affluent people are, lots of different things, but gives you a good idea of average transaction value. And this is something you could go back and just look at how many jobs did we do and what was our revenue and divide that. And that would give you an average transaction value for this year. So that's kind of an easy way to do it if you're tracking exactly how many installs you did. From there, you need to know how many leads you need. You're not closing every single phone call. You're not closing every single website form, that kind of stuff, right? But so you need to figure out how many leads do we actually need. If our closing rate is 50%, then we know we need X number of leads. And we're going to work through this. So from that, obviously, as I mentioned, that works backwards again to how many calls are we going to need in order to get that amount of leads, in order to get that amount of revenue. So little bit crazy way to kind of go about it. It is the right way to go about it, having all that. But nowadays, there's some things that you can have in place, right? And it starts with 2025 numbers. So how many installs did you do on average this year? That will give you a good idea of baseline, right? Average cost per lead. This one you might not know. So you might not know exactly how much you spent. And if you had a marketing budget, you could figure out what that was, divide that by how many installs you did, and have a good idea of how much it cost you to get a job, not necessarily how much it costs you to get a lead, because they don't always work out, right? Conversion rate, how many of those did you close? Are you closing 50%? Are you closing 70%? What is that number? And then again, what is the average job worth or the average transaction value? Thanks for tuning in with us here at Window Treatment Marketing Pros. This was just one piece of the conversation, so let's keep it going. Click right here for the next part and we'll see you there. Subscribe for more marketing tips for window treatment and awning companies.